Coming up, we're going to be talking about the Muppets Mayhem being cancelled. We're talking about Disney not distributing the Bikeriders anymore, and also a massive change over at Lucasfilm. All that and more coming up in today's Disney Plus news. But before we go any further, make sure you do hit that subscribe button to keep up with the latest Disney Plus news. Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's On at disneyplus.com, and it's time for a quick Disney Plus news roundup. Let's start off talking about the Muppets Mayhem, which has been confirmed that it's not going to be returning for a second season. The first series arrived on Disney Plus earlier this year and featured Muppets like Animal along with the rest of the Muppets Mayhem group, and they kind of get together and do their very first album. They go on tour and stuff. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't entirely surprised by the news that this show was not going to be returning. It didn't seem to make a lot of buzz when it came out. It did get a lot of attention from critics and also was recently nominated for 6 Emmys, so that was a big thing. So it was a big enough success in that way. But I gotta be honest, it kind of felt like that one show kind of was one and done, and I do wonder if Disney are perhaps then just going to be moving on to another project. Because one of the show's creator, Adam F. Goldman, took to social media to tease that they're actually working on another Muppets project. He said, "Huge thanks to the critic and fan love that got us 6 Emmy nominations and a #1 Billboard album. Mayhem was truly the most joyous and collaborative experience of my career. From day one, all I've cared about is creating a Muppetverse, and yes, I've already cooking up more Muppets with Bill and Jeff. It's happening." When asked about the cancellation, he said the wheels are in motion. So obviously that's in reference to a Seinfeld thing, or the wheels are in motion, meaning something is happening. Now, I wouldn't be at all surprised if they're just going to move the team over onto an entirely different Muppet show with more characters, maybe give them the full characters like Miss Piggy and Kermit and Gonzo, those kind of characters, which I think would probably hit a much bigger audience. I thought it was a solid show. It wasn't my favourite of the Muppets ones, but I do think they definitely seem to have grasped the idea of what to do with it. So I'm kind of in two minds with this one. On one hand, the Muppets Mayhem not returning is not a huge surprise, but I also wouldn't be at all surprised if they end up moving on to just doing a brand new Muppet show with the creators and stuff and kind of carrying on with it. But yeah, it didn't really sound, by the sounds of it, like Adam Goldberg was kind of, seemed to be anything bad about it. It seemed to be very upbeat in the fact that he's working on other stuff, but hopefully we find out pretty soon. I do remember last year at the D23 Expo, one of the presentations started off with them coming out and singing, and seeing Animal in person doing the drums did make me, as a 5-year-old kid, very, very happy when there's pictures of me with my Animal t-shirts when I was a little kid. Yeah, I will be honest, it was rather surreal. But yeah, so I enjoy the Muppets, but I don't know necessarily if this one's going to be whipped off of Disney Plus in the same way that other cancelled shows like Big Shot or anything like that, because it's part of the Muppets. It's a bit of a bigger franchise, more people might like it, and I'm hoping that we're at a point now where Disney are going to stop doing these impairment charges and realising that that's not very good publicity. And again, as a part of a bigger franchise, you know, it wasn't like the show was horrible or anything like that and people didn't like it. It did get a lot of nominations, so hopefully it sticks around. But if you haven't watched it, I'd say watch it very soon. But let us know what you think of the Muppets Mayhem being cancelled. Love to hear your thoughts on that in the comments below. Shifting gears now, let's now talk about the Bikeriders, which is a 20th Century Studios film which was set to originally be released in cinemas on the 1st of December, but the release date got sort of pulled back and it got pulled off the schedules. And this primarily at the time was down to the actors' strike, because they felt that they needed the actors, which included like Tom Hardy, to promote the film, because essentially that was the big thing at the minute. There was also, I think, a bigger issue in the fact that Beyonce announced that her new Resistance concert film was going to be released on the same day, and they didn't want to go up against it, having seen the huge success that the Taylor Swift one. I don't think it would do as well, but I think it's still a good reason for that. However, it looks like Disney aren't even going to be releasing the film now, because reports have come in that the Bikeriders is actually now going to be distributed off to another network, another platform. They don't know who's going to release it, where it's going to be released. New Regency are the ones kind of financing the film, and Disney have just pulled out of it. Very weird to see them doing this at the last minute with just weeks before it. It has been premiering at a number of film festivals. It's kind of had good word of buzz, but nothing amazing. I don't think it necessarily would have won any Oscars or anything like that. But also with it now being bumped back, it can't compete in this year's event. Yeah, very messy. You just don't see this very often. No, normally if they kind of offset a film to another platform, which 20th Century Studios has done in the past. They've done it recently as well. But yeah, so yeah, this one is no longer going to be coming out by Disney. They've kind of wash their hands of it. Very weird. Now, whether or not it's because the creator didn't do very well, or maybe just films right now are just not doing so well and they want a more curated list, but to be kind of selling off and just kind of getting rid of a title, they're doing this with a number of projects where maybe they're just, again, just like, we just don't want it. We don't want to be spending money advertising on this thing that's just not going to work. Very strange. I mean, I was looking forward to watching it, but yeah, gonna have to see where it ends up. It could end up going to a streamer, maybe Netflix, Apple, or Amazon, or something like that. It might even still get a theatrical release. But let us know what you think of the Bikeriders being kind of essentially sold on by Disney. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that in the comments below. Moving on from there, let's now talk about a disturbance in the Force, because it has been revealed by Vanity Fair during an interview with Dave Filoni that he is now the Chief Creative Officer at Lucasfilm. And that means now he's going to be involved in the creative side of all of the different Star Wars projects much earlier on in development. He's still going to be working alongside Kathleen Kennedy, who's still the president of Lucasfilm. So he's kind of going to be involved as more of a mentor, working with different people and having much more a creative input, making sure that maybe things connect up a little bit more. There's lots of different films and shows in development right now, and I think, again, he said before that he gets brought in a little bit later on his projects, but now he's going to be kind of involved in everything. Now, he originally started working with George Lucas on the Clone Wars animated series, and he's been working with the company for years. He's worked on a number of different shows and films, including The Mandalorian. He's also going to be making a brand new film. They announced it at Star Wars Celebration, which is kind of be a crossover event between Ahsoka, Mandalorian. Also kind of teased that Ahsoka Season 2 is going to be happening, which I'm not surprised. I mean, why wouldn't it? They need to get that story to the point for the film. But yeah, so he's going to be in there. I think this is good news. I think having someone at the top of the creative side, kind of just directing the where they're going and just kind of making sure everything kind of connects. I think as part of a quality control, this is good. Dave Filoni, he's done some fantastic work on all the different shows and films in the last few years. So more of that, I think, is good. And I think just having a bit of a reorganization and putting him much more involved in the creative side is really good. How much power he has and what influence he can have, it's going to take years for us to see. But I do think this is really good. But let us know what you think of this in the comments below. With it being Wednesday, let's talk about what's new on Disney Plus today. So the big new release around the world was a brand new episode of Assembled, which was the making of Loki Season 2. I'll be honest, I thought it was coming out next week when I saw it this morning. I was like, oh, okay. So I haven't got around to watching it yet. We've also got a new episode of the Santa Clauses from the second season. Here in the UK, we got A Haunting in Venice, along with a brand new episode of Family Guy. We're going to be getting a new episode every week from now on. But yeah, so those are the main new releases. I'm going to be checking out A Haunting in Venice over the next few days. I've been wanting to watch the film, didn't get around to seeing it. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. Always like Agatha Christie stuff. So that's pretty cool. But let us know what you're looking forward to watching in the comments below. And our comment of the day, which comes from Brendan, who says, "What's your opinion on adult animation as a whole?" So I think right now, adult animation is in a weird situation. Now, when this started blowing up when I was a teenager, way back in the 90s, when you had things like Beavis and Butthead and when South Park initially launched and stuff, these were groundbreaking shows. You had things like Family Guy coming through. All of these different things were getting a big audience because they were pushing the boundaries and pushing what we were expecting, and that was a big thing. And it was all about pushing boundaries and reaching to a new audience. It was shocking at the time because people saw animation as for kids, and these shows kind of changed all that. South Park was a phenomenon when it came out. Now, fast forward now to this time, and shows have to be either so much more controversial to get that same attention. Some of them are just like vulgar in the point of view as like they're just doing it for doing so. South Park, I think, has always been able to kind of keep going because it kind of reflects what's going on right now, and they're able to pick things in. Recently, like with the Pandaverse special that they put out, that was able to reach an audience to kind of almost put up a mirror. We had it with the COVID special. I think South Park is doing something unique that it's managing to do. Family Guy, to me, is a show that it's just all the same. Same thing with Bob's Burgers and those kind of shows. They are just continuously on and on and on, and it's almost like comfort TV where people just pop it on and it keeps going. I've kind of fallen out of watching most of those shows. I don't watch them regularly anymore. Solar Opposites is one that I have enjoyed watching that one there. I haven't yet watched the 4th season. I enjoyed the ones before it. Futurama coming back. I think like Futurama and The Simpsons, it's just like almost like comfort TV, and I think people just like to put it on almost like in the background while they're doing other stuff rather than fully concentrating on it. And I think the idea of just pushing boundaries is much harder now with comedy and stuff, to find out what people find more funny, what people don't. I think that as a whole is just, it's very tricky to get away with a lot of the stuff that they used to. So I think that's the biggest issue, is really comes down to that, of the audience is split. Also, the younger audience are much more into faster paced stories through like TikToks and social media, that waiting for an episode, they're not got that. It's just, they're used to watching TV very differently to how I did when I was a teenager and, in my 20s and stuff. It's very different now with the amount of technology. And I think that's the key thing. Disney are going to keep churning out the shows like The Simpsons and Futurama and Family Guy while people are still watching them. And with so many episodes, they continue to keep pulling in. Family Guy is a prime example of a show that just continues to do really well on Disney Plus around the world. Same thing with Bob's Burgers, American Dad. It's got that. It is almost like they've almost become like a sitcom, because we don't get a lot of them anymore. And I think with animation, they can kind of take a little bit more risks, be a little bit more interesting with those stories, and can kind of do stuff much easier. But let us know what you think about adult animation right now. Some of the recent stuff just falls flat, and then we don't see it anymore. But I think as a whole, I think there's not a lot of innovation, because so much of it's been done, and that's the key thing. But let us know what you think of this in the comments below. Remember to go check us out over at what's on disneyplus.com. Like, follow and subscribe, and I shall see you guys soon. Laters.